Sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Back here, first things first, now joined by friend of the show, Chris Broussard. Good morning, Broussard. Good to have you here. Lot to get to from last night. We're going to break down episodes 5 and 6 from The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan doc. The doc took us through, let's see, MJ's first three-peat, his gambling trips to Atlantic City, his hesitant decision to sign with Nike, and subsequently the rise of the Air Jordan. There was a lot of Danny Ainge in this, but we might not get to that right off the bat. They packed a lot into 2 hours. Broussard, tell me, what was your biggest takeaway from last night?
Well, I like you said, they addressed a lot of the off-the-court issues for Michael Jordan. And knowing that he had a lot of control over the content, I like the fact that he addressed a lot of these things head on. First of all was the Dream Team controversy with Isaiah Thomas. I do like that Jordan gave Isaiah his respect and said, look, I think he's the second greatest point guard of all time behind Magic Johnson. And no matter how much I hate him, like, to say he hates Isaiah Thomas, he obviously had called him out in the last episode, but I like that he addressed it. Now, I would have liked to seen a little follow-up question like, well, why do you hate him so deeply? Is it just the walk-off? Do you believe he froze you out in the All-Star game in 1985? You know, dig a little deeper. But I like that Jordan addressed it and left no questions about how he feels about Isaiah Thomas and that he didn't want him on that team with the Dream Team. Second thing was, I like that they addressed the fact that Jordan didn't talk about social issues. I thought it was very powerful that Barack Obama, obviously formerly the most powerful man in the world, actually said mainstream America will accept African Americans as like Oprah, like Michael Jordan, like himself, Barack Obama, as long as you don't do or say anything controversial. It was to the point with Michael Jordan where he actually rejected a plea from his mother to speak out on behalf of Harvey Gantt, and he still didn't do it. So I thought that was interesting that they addressed that, especially if people want to contrast it to a Muhammad Ali or a LeBron James today. And then thirdly, I obviously they had to address the gambling, and you could see, like, Jordan said he doesn't have a gambling issue as a competitive issue or competition issue. And you saw that in his lust to gamble with any and everybody, even the security guys for $20 before games. Or as John Paxson said, $1 a hand blackjack on the bus or team plane. So I thought that all of that stuff was interesting because those are issues people wanted to know about and weren't sure whether or not Jordan would address them.
Those are great points, Chris. Nick, I thought my biggest takeaway here was the divergent paths that people are consuming this documentary and their takeaways from it. I think there's a part of you that thinks, wow, Jordan is even better and more spectacular and more extraordinary than I thought. Then the other path is, wow, Jordan is more human and flawed and a real person and more so than I thought. So I think having the director, Jason Harris, done an excellent job at merging those two, like the man and the myth.
Yeah, I think it's a beautifully done piece, and I'm super excited for the final 4 episodes, and I think you're absolutely right. And the time jumps haven't been confusing. They've done a really good job at kind of having these 2 timelines slowly merge together. I had 2 major takeaways. One was revelatory, one was a good reminder. I'll start with the reminder. And Bruce, listen, full disclosure here. I grew up a New York Knicks fan, okay? My mom's from New York. I'm from Kansas City. So we didn't have a team. First game I ever went to was actually game 82 of the 93 season, the season discussed last night. Knicks Bulls at the Garden, a game the Knicks won by, I think, 4 or 6 points. So I loved those teams. I loved Patrick Ewing. But when you watch those highlights, here is an uncomfortable reminder that I know a lot of our friends in the New York-based media don't like to admit. Those Knicks teams were not that good. It was Patrick Ewing and a bunch of... They were iconic. They were tough. They were memorable. But when you look at those highlights of the team that went up 2-0 on Chicago and then lost 4 straight, who do they got? after Patrick. John Starks, who barely made the team, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, Charles Smith, Doc Rivers, like that. It's Pat and a bunch of guys. And I think that should probably elevate Patrick Ewing in the eyes of many because those iconic Knicks teams were not that good. And my other takeaway, Broussard, was this. The unbelievable toll fame took on Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan became the world's most famous athlete in 1988. By 1993, he was already discussing retirement. And then I think the gambling controversy, plus completing the three-peat, and then his father's tragic murder, all of it together, he said, you know what? I don't want this anymore. Then he comes back a year and a half later, and 3 more years of that scrutiny. We see him in the movie last night, laying in his hotel room, saying to the cameraman in 1998, basically, it ain't fun being me. I don't want this anymore. So if 5 years of being the world's most famous athlete, and for a lot of reasons he burnt out, 3 more years of being the world's most famous athlete, and he said, you know what? I don't want this anymore, even though he could still play, and he still clearly wanted to play Broussard. I thought that was very informative, that just the toll being Michael Jordan took on him.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was definitely a takeaway for me as well. And I got to address your Knicks point, Nick, because those Knicks teams were very good. Look, we've seen in recent history that just gathering a collection of superstars doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best team. Dallas, when they beat the Heatles, right, with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, Miami had the most talent. Dallas had Dirk Nowitzki and old Jason Kidd and a bunch of guys, good role players like the Knicks had Jason Terry, Sean Marion, and they were able to win. Toronto, when they won the championship last year, they had Kawhi Leonard and a bunch of guys. And I know you can talk about injuries, but that happens, and it's happened throughout the history of the game. So chemistry, camaraderie, how guys understand their roles, that has a lot to do with what's a great team as well. Not just, oh, we had 2 superstars, we had 3 superstars, we had 4 superstars. When Houston had Barkley, Pippen, and Olajuwon, they won nothing. So you can't just look at it that way. That was a great Knicks team.
But Broussard, that wasn't a great team. They had 1 All-Star. They had 1 Listen, I loved that team. I grew up rooting for that team. 1 All-Star. 1. Not superstar, not Hall of Famer.
Made All-Stars. John Starks made All-Star team.
Later, John Starks made All-Star the next year. The 93 Knicks had 1 guy that said, yes, the next year. Doc Rivers made an All-Star team in 88 with the Hawks. Get the hell out of here with that. Listen, man. The fact of the matter is, Broussard, Broussard. Okay, all right, fine. You want to listen? I love those Knicks teams. They were iconic. They were fun. They were tough.
Why did Miami win 4 straight championships when they had the most talented team in the league?
I'm not saying you just create an all-star team and you win the title. I'm saying those Knicks teams are better in our memory than they actually were. And by the way, if you look at, and I'm talking about guys who didn't make the all-star team, Broussard, the other takeaway just quickly here, and I want your reaction to it, we saw that 98 Eastern Conference all-star team photo. Oh boy. The East definitely been struggling for a while because I saw in that photo, I'm like, oh my God, it's the Duncan Dutchman's music. Is that Cav Sean Kemp? That's one of the Jason Williams guys. I remember him. Holy moly, there's Steve Smith out there. That 98 East All-Star team.
My goodness.
Yikes.
You are ripping. These dudes could ball. Steve Smith was a great player from his days at Michigan State onward. And Sean Kemp was awesome for a season.
Have Sean Kemp?
You know, a season in time. Yes, he still averaged 20 and 10.
All right, well,
typical millennial ripping the players of yesteryear.
Is Nick a millennial?
I tell him that all the time.
I think he's a millennial. That's a compliment.
Somehow, just on the He's almost out of it. Somehow, some way, these two aren't the most fired up guys on our panel. That I leave to Kevin Wild. So fired up about last night. He was nervous. He wasn't going to get anything off his chest. When he gets nervous, I get nervous. Nobody wants to see me nervous. Here's what we're going to do, Wilds. We're giving you a shot clock. It's a segment we're calling Running Wilds. And by we, I mean me.
Sure.
Your clock, get ready, starts now.
Okay, here are the 13 biggest surprises from the documentary. 1, I was surprised that Jordan laced his own shoes. I was surprised that in 1985, Jordan was the best shoe in the world, and then 13 years later, it turns your foot into a bloodbath. I was surprised that Barkley thought he was the best player in the world for a while. I was surprised that Jordan called Isaiah the second best point guard ever. I was surprised at how great Ahmad Rashad looked in that inside stuff all over print. I'd buy those, they bring them back out. Surprised Jordan thought it was a good idea to wear sunglasses for that interview. Never a good idea. I was surprised that Jordan played ticket broker before the game. Surprised Seinfeld aged so well. Seinfeld looking great. Surprised at the 93 finals, the home team lost every game except one. I was surprised 62,000 people saw Bulls-Hawks in the Georgia Dome. Surprised Jordan saying he wanted to leave 2 years before his skills deteriorated. And a surprise we didn't get more Danny Ainge for Jenna. Nick, those are my biggest surprises from the last two episodes of The Last Dance.
Wow, and you did that fast. I'm gonna add two more surprises, Broussard. 1, I'm surprised that up 4 with 40 seconds left in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, the Phoenix Suns played the single worst possession of transition defense I've ever seen in my life, just allowing Michael Jordan to get a layup to cut it to 2. The hell you doing, Barkley? I love you, Chuck. Turn and run, man. You're titled, everything's on the line. And the other thing I was surprised about, and Broussard, I'm surprised basketball referees